Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. It's my pleasure to present to you the March City Manager's Report. Just jump right in with important dates moving forward. A couple dates to remember. We're going to be back as a staff, just a few of us, in Bismarck to testify in front of the Energy Development and Transmission Commission on the 8th of this month. On the 12th, we'll have some international visitors that are going to be meeting with both the mayor and I and other staff members. The International Economic Development Council will be here on the 12th and 13th in Minot. The Main Street Dashboard Data Conference will be held, or meeting will be held in Bismarck on the 21st of the month. There's a Magic Fund meeting on the 23rd at 7:30 here in Chambers. Planning Commission will be scheduled for 6:30 on the 26th. We'll have the next Committee of the Whole meetings at 4:15 here in Chambers on the 27th and the 28th. There's a flood protection groundbreaking that'll be taking place. I'll give you a little bit more information about that at 1:30 p.m. On the 28th. And finally, just as a reminder, Good Friday, the offices of the city will be closed on the 30th. So flood control, this is groundbreaking. We're very excited to talk about this. It's been a long time coming. I know pretty much the entire community is very excited about this. It'll be held at 1:30 at the 16th Street and Forest Road site. I'll show you a map here in just a moment as to where to park and where to convene. Keep in mind, Phase 1 is going to be located at 4th Avenue. The contractor's park construction, and of course that project will involve the construction of levees, walls, and a pump station. Phase 2 will be the Napa Valley project, which will be between the 16th Street and 83rd bypass, or 83 bypass. Wagner Construction was the successful contractor that bid on that project, and again, more levees. We'll have a road closure and also a pump station as part of that project. Phase 3 is going to be located near Forest Road, 16th and 3rd Avenue. Wagner, again, the contractor, and that project involves building additional levees as well. All three of those projects are what we're going to be kicking off and are going to be the first part of the phased implementation of flood control for our community. So we're pretty excited about that. Here's the parking detail just to kind of get people around. We have a number of vacant lots here on the south adjacent to the river for overflow parking. The parking lot just to the north there, just off 7th Avenue Southwest, will be where you'll probably want to park and then kind of walk to the site. Want to talk a little bit about the National Disaster Resilience Program update. The downtown gathering place is proceeding as planned. We did send out letters to all the property owners who are involved or in the general siting of that location to address their interest. Everyone has expressed interest in talking with the city and participating in the project to date. There's one outlier, and that's the old Sioux property, or the CP Rail property that's on the north side of the property site. We still need to try to get a hold of them and see what their interest is in this. Currently, for all the remaining properties that are interested, we're going to be determining the fair market value and then beginning to negotiate with them. Keep in mind, this is a voluntary acquisition program, not an involuntary one. On the multifamily housing side, we do have the request for proposals that's going to be considered tonight on the agenda. So if you have questions about it, we can address that at that point in time. We're going to be focusing that RFP on rehabilitating downtown Minot and the surrounding areas. And the team is also discussing multifamily development with nonprofit organizations in a way to develop subrecipient agreements, which would allow us to directly work with those nonprofits to bring about some of the actionable items that we've discussed in the NDR program. We have submitted, as you know, last year, I want to say it was around late November, a waiver to allow us to move forward with the City Hall portion of the NDR projects. That process is slow. We were told that it would take about 4 to 6 months. We're getting up to the end of the 4-month period or so, and so we continue to kind of nudge HUD to try to get some progress made. It's been a bit silent at the moment, so we're hopeful something shakes loose on that here in the next month or so. Lastly, the single-family housing project is focused on gap financing at this point. We're trying to help low to moderate income families fill the gap and stay in Minot as it relates to continuing along with the housing incentive program. We're motivating buyers to, as I mentioned, stay in Minot, but there are going to be some restrictions that are going to apply that folks who are going to be interested in this program need to kind of work with staff to address and make sure that all the qualifications are met for that program to be applicable to them. The International Economic Development Council is going to be visiting with us again here March 12th through the 14th. You might recall they provided a sort of Economic Development 101 workshop late last year. They're going to be back. We're going to have one economic development expert and 3 other development professionals or economic development professionals that'll make up the team from around the country. They'll be doing 3 days worth of research in Minot to essentially identify strengths and weaknesses and various opportunities and other challenges that we have as a community, and make sure that we develop strategies for moving forward with an economic development plan that makes the most sense for the city. So stay tuned. I think they're going to be meeting with some of us individually, and of course we'd like for you to be involved to whatever extent that you'd like to. Moving forward, we are going to have the council workshop that we've talked about on April 4th from about noon to 5. Most of the sorry about that. Most of the conversation in and around the council workshop will be around personnel management, talking specifically about recruitment and retention, the employee pay plan, the healthcare program, and some other questions that came up during the last budget process. So we want to make sure that before we head into this budget process, we're clear on all of those details so that we can put the budget together accordingly this year. All right, next I mentioned that we're going to be talking with the Energy Development and Transmission Commission here in, on the 7th and the 8th of this month, later this week actually. And this is important because we are continuing to tell the story about why Minot is deserving to be a hub city and how we've been impacted by the oil and gas activities that have occurred in and around our community. And I'll just maybe summarize with one graphic here that shows essentially why it's so important for us to remain engaged with this particular project, and that's this graph here. If you look at the other 2 hub cities, Williston and Dickinson, you'll see here a comparison. The yellow talks about the increase in population between 2010 and 2016. The blue bar represents how much money those communities have gotten from hub city financing, and you can see there is a very obvious outlier here. That's what we're concerned about, and that's what we want to make sure that our state representatives fully understand, that we've had, to say the least, a very big impact similar to the other communities, but we've received very, very little funding in the way of hub city funding for that. So those are big dollars. We've continued to see them dwindle over the last couple of years, and we want to correct that particular situation. So all the more reason for us to be down and make a strong presence and a strong case. You may notice, maybe the community notices too, we've got a new some improvements that have been brought to the city council chambers. The most obvious is the ADA ramp here, which allows us to have handicap access to the dais, which I think is important, particularly for those who may want to serve in our community government. We also have 4 cameras now that are surrounding the facility, which allow us to get better audio and video, I should say, which is streamed live on the website and also archived. We also are going to have this podium replaced, and it will be upgraded to include an ADA accessible countertop, which would allow folks who have disabilities to come up and utilize it. And in addition, some of the other improvements include having a hearing impaired transmitter, which is the black box that's sitting right up above Alderman Padrigula's head. That allows for anyone who has hearing impairments to join the conversation, either through a couple different mechanisms. One through receivership for transmitting or receiving of hearing impairment devices that allow for that, or alternatively we do have headphones as well. So we're trying to improve access and also transparency for the council chambers, which I think is important. This project cost about $70,000, which was the budget for these and other improvements, and those were paid for by the sales tax monies that came as a disbursement through the Community Facilities Fund last year, you might recall. Okay. The police department, I want to do a couple recognitions here. We had a promotion. Greg Johnson was promoted from senior officer to sergeant. So we do want to thank him for his continued service with the department and stepping up into that role. And also the police department did have Officer and Employee of the Year awards. And I just wanted to bring to your attention that Senior Officer Ross Lackaduk was named Officer of the Year, and then Lead Dispatcher Sean Christie was named Employee of the Year for the police department. So we do appreciate their service and certainly their outstanding contributions to the city. Lastly, just want to let you know the Community Development Director position has been advertised. We are advertising in a number of different venues, including the American Public Works Association, the American Planning Association, International City and County Managers Association, GovernmentJobs.com, North Dakota Job Service, our website, and a number of other things. We're attempting to fill this position using internal resources first. If that doesn't work, we may be coming back to the City Council to talk about the possibility of hiring some professional help in the form of a headhunter to maybe look for that position. But in any event, we do hope that goes well for us. We're excited. We've already gotten a few applications to date, which is exciting, given the fact that it's not been out for very long. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have and wrap it up for the evening.
Any questions for Mr. Berry? Alderman Straight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom, I guess I wanted to thank you about the upcoming Hub City meeting in Bismarck. I think it's important going forward, any dates and times you're aware of to try to pass on to the council for if we can be of assistance in Bismarck. I think it's incredibly important. Director Jonason spoke of the importance of that last week at the CIRRUS Joint Board meeting, and it's critical that as much as our folks work hard and have to go down to Bismarck, it's more important that we end up in Bismarck to not just back them up, but legislators would rather hear from us than hear from city staff, and I think it's incredibly important. So the more heads up that we can get, this is a part-time gig. I recognize we all have other jobs, but we need to try to be there to support city staff. So I just wanted to thank you on that.
Any other questions for Mr. Berry? I want to clarify that Senator Wardner, who's put together these meetings down there, has been a tremendous asset to the community. He's out of Dickinson, but he's been very supportive of Minot. He's one to put together those tours that we presented at a few months ago, and he's the one who's put these meetings together, and I look forward to seeing him and thanking him again in person for everything he's done for all of the hub cities. But he's been very cognizant of not cutting Minot out, and there are some in the legislature that would like to do that. So I'm grateful for that. Any other questions, Mr. Berry? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
City Attorney.
Mayor, members of the council,